UK, outside of the American embassy, which you may be able to see behind me, this big horrible black box, you know.
Well, this is Cardo's Media, and yeah, don't blame the messenger. Yeah.
Yo, you don't know, this is Trilogy, straight out of Dominica, and you're tuned in to Cardo's Media.
I'm not
Don't blame the messenger. Boom!
Did something go wrong?
No, nothing went wrong. We were just doing the intro.
Okay.
Lovely.
As I say, I mean, obviously the United Kingdom has defined itself mainly as America's lapdogs over the past few decades in aid of its imperialism. But I'll say that since the Palestine protests in the UK, which have been some of the largest in Europe, sometimes having up to 1 million people closing down the centre of London, you know, the British people have learned a lot of lessons about imperialism and also about what our democracy means and what it doesn't mean. You know, because Trump is not popular in the UK by any means, especially not in London, where, you know, I'm proud we've got one of the most international communities in the world. Other people that come from countries that have real experience of colonialism, of imperialism, and know what it is that we have to fight. You know, and this is why London we've stood in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and today about 100 of us have come out to stand in solidarity with the Venezuelan people. You know, and I'm sure in the next few days we're going to see many more demonstrations in solidarity with Venezuela, because this war, there's no manufactured consent for this war. It's not like Iraq and Afghanistan. Trump has gone too fast, too stupid. You know, but yeah, that's all I got to say. It was just to say it was very. I was lucky enough to attend the international meeting of the Peace and Sovereignty of Our Americas, where I met many people from the Caribbean and across the Americas, and it's very inspiring to see so many people standing in solidarity with Venezuela at this time. But I'd also just to finish, I did text a friend in Caracas today. A young woman who was sheltering in her house, you know, and I said, "Are you okay?" And I told her we were organising demonstrations, and she said, "Good." And she said, a doubt is betrayal to victory always. Hasta la victoria, el siempre, right? It's the words of Che Guevara, and I found it very inspiring. So I think all of us should be inspired by the Venezuelan people at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your candor. Could you show us the crowd that you in, Ben?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, let me take you into it. So this is an encampment that's been outside the American embassy since the genocide in Gaza began, and this is where we've chosen to gather. And this is the crowd.
We know that the attacks on Venezuela are attacks that are spreading throughout all of the Caribbean. Again, as our comrade said, the U.S. thinks that these.
Yeah, did you see it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. My phone is very low, so I've got to run now. But solidarity, comrades.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. See you. Bye bye.
You safe all day, man.
Yeah, you too. You too.
So we had Ben Woodward calling in from the UK, saying that they are standing in solidarity with the Venezuelan people on the recent attack by the US, and they are protesting outside the US embassy in London. Here, that was a live broadcast straight out of London, coming through straight from Cardo's Media. We also are being joined by Mr. Leroy George, and we have a couple other guests to come on as we go along into this program this morning. We are trying to figure out, and we have questions to ask the public. Are you guys in solidarity with the war going on in Venezuela presently, with the recent bombings and the supposed capture of President Maduro and his wife? If you want to call in, you can call in on 767-285-8487. 767-285-8487. That is on WhatsApp. So you could call in via these numbers. We also have Miss Wendell.
Mr. Wendell Smith.
Oh, Mr. Wendell is okay. I'm sorry. I'm I'm bad with names. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hello, morning.
Can you hear us clearly?
Yeah, yeah. But right now I'm traveling. I'm on the way to
Oh,
the airport to head back to
okay.
Trinidad. Right, but you all
Oh,
hearing me?
yes, we are hearing you, sir.
Yeah. As you all could see, that we wake up this morning hearing the news from early this morning from 2 a.m. What is taking place in Venezuela.
Yes.
And as a concerned citizen of Trinidad and Tobago, I must say that as other citizens just like myself, because Trinidad and Tobago is a twin island. It's a small island in the Caribbean, and our closest neighbor is Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And I am real surprised to know that we did not let diplomacy play out its way where this matter is concerned. And we know we will have people for and people for against, but I think the Caribbean should always remain a zone of peace because that has been our mantra since CARICOM has formed. And when we listen to the great leaders who work together to make sure that CARICOM is a place where it is today, right? We should not try to differ from this situation because when we look and see what is taking place throughout the world and other countries in the Far East, we know what war did. We know what war do, right? War disrupt a whole country. War disrupt families. War um, disrupt members in families where a lot of lives have been lost innocently. And I don't think the situation that we are facing today should dealt with by going to take a country's sovereignty by force. And I think Venezuela problem with Venezuelan, right? They should fight and see how best them could deal with this situation concerning what I am seeing that the Caribbean now have been come now into the mix of what have been taking place. I remember um, Winston Ducaran wrote a book called The Caribbean on the Edge, and that book was written by him some years now. And are we seeing what he have wrote coming to bear fruit? We in each Caribbean country should try and get the politics right, and the politics right of each country should work with where democracy is concerned. And most countries in the Caribbean, we see how we vote in a government by the vote of the ballot. And we have been doing this ever since I know myself in Trinidad, where voting is concerned. We let democracy prevail. That should be in Venezuela. The what was banned in Trinidad thing. We're hearing different reports coming from all different quarters of the world. To hear certain remarks take place in the United Nations, and where investigations that shows that the narco state and what they say coming out from Venezuela is not a country that where these drugs that they're talking about is coming out from. But what we are seeing today is that we're hearing talks about the wealth of a country. We're hearing talks about the resources. And if some countries intend to go after some countries' resources and by using certain tactics, because we see what have played out throughout the certain countries in Africa, certain countries in Asia, certain countries in Arab, where oil is concerned, whatever the war bring, even up to today, these countries remain unstable, right? People still seeing how they could fight up and come to terms to everyday life. So what we are seeing right now in the Caribbean, I hope and pray to God because when war are finished and those who was involved in it leave and go is we in the Caribbean have to make ends meet. And as a small nation, I praying for peace. And as a small nation, I want to see democracy play an important role. As a small nation, we should respect each country's sovereignty. And that is what I want. And that is what I will bring towards this table this morning.
Thank you, sir. We also have Mr. Sean Big Hutch. You want to give us your candor this morning, sir?
Yeah, greetings to everybody from Tobago. Well, I don't know where to start really. We should not be shocked by what has happened or what is reported as having been happened overnight. We should not be shocked. We should prepare ourselves for such activity. The United States government is a belligerent government. It's a government ruled by a clique of megalomaniacs, it seems, a clique of the most right-wing, fascistic, militaristic leaders. And behind those leaders is or are the most wealthy oligarchs.
Your voice went up with Mr. Sean. Your voice. We're still not hearing you. You're not coming through at all. Check your mic, see if it's muted. I can't hear you at all. All right, we're gonna try Miss Vencimos, volunteer from the volunteer group out in Can you hear me? Oh, her camera is stuck. So what we have done this morning, my people, is that we have added and we have created a bunch of different people from different Caribbean islands from around the world, and also people from around the world who want to lend their voice and speak and say how they feel about the current situation taking place in Venezuela. So, Miss, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, for sure. Can you all hear me clear? Miss Crony? Is the sound okay? Can you all hear me?
The sound is good.
Okay, thank you so much. I do excuse, I'm here also with Venceremos member, Mr. Chevron Cartawicromo, and as you all know, my name, Jennifer Crony. We are actually representing Venceremos Suriname, the humanitarian volunteer group. Okay. Also, in the chat box, we added our statement of condemnation. So for us, it's clear that this is stretching to the point that Western superpowers are actually invading international law and rights of sovereign countries, and this can never be accepted. Actually, the existence of the United Nations Security Council shall be questioned in this sense. We cannot accept that sovereign countries can be attacked and a president and for sure his wife can be kidnapped. This is kidnapping we are talking about. And the people of Venezuela and the international community we do have the right to question matters. I think actions shall be taken now. If our continent and a region or a country cannot count on the United States Security Council, what is actually the value of the existence and breaking all international laws, in my opinion. So I look forward if we can have like mass demonstrations according to the support we give to Palestina, to Gaza, and we should continue. This is the same situation like Palestine and Gaza, but only in our region. So I think we can never agree with what is happening now. And this will lead, for sure, it will impact all of us. This is just the beginning. And what will be the reply of Venezuela and of all anti-fascists? And this is not in our favor, not for our continent, not for the people of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and also for not for no country. So also I would like also Mr. Chevron Katowick-Romo to say something also, and he will introduce himself. 1 second.
Yes. Good morning. Chevron Katowick-Romo, also member of Venceremus Humanitarian Volunteer Group in Suriname. I think that we can all agree on that this is a flagrant, this invasion is a flagrant disrespect to international law, violation of the sovereignty of a nation, which because of its not being part of a group of countries that is willing to bow down to American imperialism, this is happening right now. So I think we need to be very clear as people of members of the public and members of international organizations or voluntary groups to condemn this flagrant act that is against the violation of international law. Yes, thank you.
My question is, will there be a joint statement, and we are looking forward also to support fully. Also, if we could take the initiative for a petition, we will do so with our counterparts to check if we could produce the petition and to be signed.
Okay. So we will have more discussion as we go along through the day on this petition and what we do next with our move. Because my take on this is, if Venezuela falls now, who is next to fall after this?
Exactly. That is the question. I think globally, this is not only an attack on Venezuela, but this is an attack on the whole world. And the whole world. Because if they are allowed and we accept, then, I mean, there are no boundaries. And today it's Venezuela, and tomorrow, for sure, it's our countries, our nations, smaller countries who cannot even resist with their armies.
Exactly.
Who don't even have armies. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. So we are looking forward to clear actions. I think only to make press releases and statements is not enough. We shall overthink of more concrete actions, like sit-down actions. I do want to refer to a lot of our revolutionary leaders who have taught us that it has to be now or never. True. And we have a lot of examples how our revolutionary leaders did this to get the freedom of slavery, of all kinds of oppressions. And if we don't take action now, when will we?
When will we? All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for your candor, and we'll bring you back on the screen in a little while again. So, Mr. Sean, are you ready now?
Well, I hope so. Everybody.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It was a technical issue, and also misunderstanding of how to use the machinery. Anyway, thanks for having me. Good to see some people in our region getting together. Congratulate everyone who's stepping forward at this time to discuss, to express concern, to express shock and horror at the violation of international law, the violation of the principles of sovereignty, independence, and our zone of peace, violating our zone of peace so flagrantly. Our zone of peace has been violated blatantly by this attack. But as well as this latest attack and the reported kidnapping of the president of Venezuela, and the reported bombing attacks against several locations in Venezuela, including its reported symbolic military sites and symbolic sites which are close to the heart of the Venezuelans. I read, but it hasn't been verified, but I read that the mausoleum or a mausoleum or a site where Comandante Chavez had been interred was bombed. If this is true, this is the type of humiliation that the imperialists have for our
Right.
people. We've seen the kind of humiliation that they mete out to people against the people of Palestine. Anyway, that's an aside. What I was saying before was we shouldn't be shocked by this. We should be prepared. We should have been prepared, should have been, and shall. We must continue to prepare to resist however we can. The United States government is ruled, it seems, by the most right-wing, fascistic, militaristic, backward-looking, nostalgic for Monroe Doctrine colonialism leadership. And behind that leadership stands the oligarchy, the richest, the elite of the United States. So we should be clear on that. Their goal, their aim, their ambition is to rule the world. Within the context of that, our hemisphere, including our region, our Caribbean region, is a target for them, is prey for them. They regard us as their backyard, their natural territory, their appendages, their vassals. And some of the leadership, the current leadership in the Caribbean, appear to have accepted that role for themselves, especially the current leadership in Trinidad and Tobago. So what conclusions are we to draw? What conclusions? Initially, or first thing first, we have to condemn. We have to condemn the violation of international law, the bombing, condemn the reported kidnapping of the president of Venezuela. We should demand that all the international institutions do their duty, do their job. CARICOM, ALBA, TCP, all of them, Organization of American States, although we know that they're controlled by the Americans, United Nations, all the international institutions have to step up and defend principle and rights. Otherwise, they will fall by the wayside, because the American empire has declared that we are the authority in this world. As well as declaring that, they put that into practice with their hundreds of military bases, global military bases. In the last 5 days, in the last year, they've aided and abetted the genocide in Palestine. They bombed and aided and abetted the bombing of Iran, of Yemen, other countries in West Asia. Now they're bombing our region, as well as the fact that they've assassinated, extrajudicially assassinated, up to 100 people in the Caribbean Sea and on the Pacific coast of Colombia over the last few months. This is flagrant state terrorism. It's not even hidden. The National Security Strategy of 2025 declares it openly and proudly that they want to resuscitate the Monroe Doctrine, the Roosevelt Corollary, and what they're now calling the Trump Corollary, which is this. What we see overnight is the Trump Corollary. What we see over the last few months is the Trump Corollary. Surrounding of countries in the region, the mobilization of a massive armada of the most advanced military equipment, thousands of troops, military bases, including in Tobago, including in Puerto Rico, including in Dominican Republic. What do you call it now? The granting or the agreeing of these status of forces agreements with certain countries in the Caribbean. All these are very dangerous situations. So anyway, breaking it down, we should condemn it, yes. But what should we do? We have a history in this region of rebellion and of resistance. From the time the European conquistadors came here, the First Nation people resisted however they could. The peoples of the region, up north, down south, in the Caribbean region, Central America, have always resisted. We have plenty martyrs. We have plenty leaders. The most famous ones we know, Bolivar, Martí, Chavez, Fidel, Che. There's many more, known and unknown. In the Caribbean islands, in the English-speaking Caribbean, we have a history of resistance. in the night throughout, opposing our enslavement, opposing colonial domination, workers stepping forward in the 1930s, all kind of rebellions taking place over many decades. So what does this mean now? We have to fulfill our obligations and our history and stand on our history. The demand, as well as the demand that the US imperialists must leave and that we must remain a zone of peace, we must make that real. We also need governments that represent the interests of the people. Where in the interest of the people is war? Who voted for any of our of these governments? Who voted for war? Who voted for aggression? Who voted for or who fought for United States military occupation? Because that's what it is. So we need governments that defend truth, independent sovereignty, modern definitions of sovereignty and independence. We need governments which oppose war, and we need to establish those kind of governments. Otherwise, we're going to be swept away. We'll be swept away, and we will become even more colonized than we have been in the past, and that was bad enough.
So this comment here came in. Maduro is gone. Venezuela is free. Do you think that is fact?
Who, me or all of us?
Anybody in the panel?
If I may have an opportunity to address this one, Maduro is gone, Venezuela is free. I think we need to be very careful that if we say the same lie over and over, that doesn't make it true. As I would have pointed out, I think the last time I spoke on Cardo's media, there is this false assumption that Maduro is a dictator and that he was not democratically elected into office. Having been one of the election observers in the last municipal election of July in 2025, I could happily report that the checks and balances that I would have observed where Venezuelan elections are concerned were greater than that which I see here in Trinidad and Tobago, which I pretty much am sure is consistent with the checks and balances that exist in the rest of the English-speaking Caribbean. And part of the reason I think they had such stringent rules is previous to the presidential election of 2024, which is the election that a lot of persons claim Maduro stole, there was some easing of sanctions by the previous administration in the United States, that's the Joe Biden administration. And so that is part of the reason why Venezuela has hundreds of international observers, of which I was just one during their elections. Other than that, anyone that would refer to Mr. Maduro as a dictator, I would ask them, who is the democratic leader of Ukraine? Because you would hear persons saying that Mr. Vladimir Zelensky is the democratic leader of Ukraine. This is despite the fact that in 2014, the democratically elected leader of Ukraine was viciously and violently removed from office. The democratic government of Ukraine was removed from office. And of course, that speaks to undue influence. When you did have an election and eventually Mr. Zelensky was elected, and Zelensky would have served his entire term. And when his term came to an end, they would have not had an election in its due season because of war-type scenarios. My thing is, not even taking into regard the fact that Venezuela has strong democratic processes where voting is concerned, not even taking into regard the fact that when you look at the results coming out of the equivalent of the Elections and Boundaries Commission in Venezuela, here in Trinidad and Tobago, we call it the Elections and Boundaries Commission, we see a voting pattern that is consistent with what happened previously in trend and in trajectory, and what happened after in trend and trajectory. And we do not hear complaints coming from these same individuals that claim that Maduro was a dictator concerning the elections that happened previous and afterwards. I'm talking about the municipal election and also the presidential election that happened afterwards. We need to be careful. So when persons put it to us that this was an illegal person, this was somebody that was not a democratically elected person, ask them to prove their point, because there is at least one person I could think of who is the founder of Full 100 Democracy. Most of the people you would have heard of here today are members of the Full 100 Democracy WhatsApp chat, that is willing to stand up and explain in very detailed manner that it appears almost certainly that Mr. Maduro is the democratically elected president. And the last thing I'll say, notwithstanding, this blockade that has been taking place and intensified in Venezuela or around Venezuela to stifle the economy is just a continuation of what was happening even during the last couple elections, and yet still Mr. Maduro keeps winning. And today we see a last piece of evidence that Maduro is a democratically elected president, in that despite the fact that they would have bombed, I was so saddened to hear when Mr. Bigart Hutchinson mentioned one of the sites, because I could tell you guys a little bit more about that particular site pertaining to Simon Bolivar. It is meant to dishearten the people of Venezuela, long story short, and I'll tell you guys some more as we go on later. But despite the fact that they have bombed Caracas, and despite the fact that they have removed Maduro, what we are seeing in Caracas today, we saw from Guardian Media and CNC3 here in Trinidad and Tobago, is that Venezuelan people are coming out into the streets of Caracas, and they are not protesting or celebrating the removal of Maduro, but they are in solidarity with Maduro. You are not seeing anybody in the streets of Caracas celebrating the removal of Maduro. And this is evidence that we're dealing with a democratically elected individual that was removed from office. If I may just, because I would really dislike myself if I didn't build on what Mr. Sean Bigart Hutchinson said. He spoke of a particular museum area that was bombed, allegedly. And I was there in July of 2025. It happened around the time that I was there was around the birthday of Simon Bolivar. Simon Bolivar is a very important person in understanding why this has happened, because the bombing of it says very clearly why it happened, and why I am confident that the people of Venezuela will remain triumphant. You see, shortly after the Haitian Revolution, Simon Bolivar was an individual. He came from a rich family. His parents died at an early age. He went to Haiti, where he was able to get some guns to liberate not only Venezuela, but also Colombia, also Peru, also one or two other nations. And the idea was to create a naturally occurring nation of Spanish-speaking peoples in the Latin and Southern American region. And this idea was one that would have been stolen from Simon Bolivar and used by Monroe. Now, before I go any further, let me point out this. In order to get those weapons from Haiti, Simon Bolivar had to promise, and he fulfilled that promise, to emancipate the African slaves in Venezuela, Colombia, in the entire region that was liberated and was supposed to be part of a greater nation, which is exemplified by the idea of Colombia. People will often wonder, why is the capital of the United States called British Columbia, or District of Columbia, rather? It is because the idea of Colombia is a naturally occurring nation of the entire Western Hemisphere. When this was stolen from Monroe, you have to understand it was stolen by a nation that did not emancipate its slaves, etc. And so, when you see this attack on Venezuela, yes, it is about oil. Mr. Donald Trump has been abundantly clear about it. But today, in the bombing of that particular site, which is a very sacred site, so sacred that I am so glad that I actually have some footage in terms of pictures. I may even have some video footage of that site, etc. when we were taking pictures and videos, they even asked us to stop taking pictures and videos out of respect for Simon Bolivar. It may have been his resting place or a symbol or something symbolic of his life, right? For them to bomb that particular site, it is sending a message that, listen, the philosophy of Monroe during the time of slavery in the United States is the one that is going to be dominant. It is not going to be the philosophy of Simon Bolivar of Venezuela. And so to take an ideology and to inflict so much harm and so much pain in the world and to override democracy and to call wrong right and right wrong, till somebody in your audience in the comment section said Venezuela is free, ask that individual to go and actually prove their point the way I am able to bring evidence that this here is actually an injustice and a fight against democracy. I bet they cannot comment. Lastly, what I would point out, most of the persons you would have heard of so far are members of Full 100 Democracy, an organization of which I'm the founder. They're members of the WhatsApp group. And in order to become a member of that group, there was and is only one prerequisite, and that is a willingness to discuss democracy. And you would notice that even though there is only one prerequisite, which is a willingness to discuss democracy, persons from different political parties, different nations, etc., there was unison, and there is unison in condemnation of what has happened this morning. The reason for that being, persons who take discussions on this democracy particularly seriously would always come to certain commonalities in their conclusions. And one of those commonalities has proven itself to be that what happened this morning is wrong, it is an attack on democracy, and it is an attack on sovereignty. Whilst Venezuela may have been violently attacked today, Trinidad and Tobago has been under attack ever since our last Prime Minister came into office and introduced into the Trinidad and Tobago atmosphere the US military, who, if she was to get up and say, Donald Trump, I would like you to leave, I don't think she has the power to remove Donald Trump. And as such, she proves that she is aiding and abetting in the colonization of Trinidad and Tobago, and she has been interfering in the elections of all the other English-speaking nations. And as a result of that, we can see that it is an expansionist movement that we need to speak in unison against. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Mr. Mr. Riaz, you can go now. You can go ahead.
Well, I have a total different approach because I think everything starts with the economical situation of a person, you know, because once a person has financial problems, he will be easily um, he'll be easily persuaded to accept gifts from the traitors, from foreign people. And that's how the foreign people win the souls of people in countries, you know. So my focus is every political party who is in the left wing, they should educate the people and learn the people how to be how you call it, how to be independent and earn their own money, so they will be able to uh, because once you have a good economic a financial situation, you will also be able to educate yourself, and you will also be able to fight against to open up your mouth and be and say to say that you do not agree with a lot of things, you know. So that is my focus. Education is the key. Educate the people how to be independent, because that's where it starts. That's all what I have to say. And
Yes,
and
Anthony.
of course, the most important is we should fight to unite people, because the only way to win a fight is to unite. That's
Yes,
why I
yeah,
always say, united we stand, divided we fall.
reform, definitely. I agree to that. So I think, Mr. Leroy, you have something to say. You were going to say something, and there's a comment I think you might want to respond to this comment.
I just wanted to commend the gentleman that just spoke. I think his contribution is extremely important. The understanding of the importance of being able to stand on your own feet, because of course the bowing that we see from the Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister and the assistance that she lends to the United States, etc., it came on the heel of Trinidad and Tobago running short on oil and gas reserves. And of course, that plays a role. And when I was in Venezuela on the 2 visits, everything was impressive to me except one thing. They do their day-to-day transactions in US dollars. And I said to myself, if you know you have a problem with somebody, why would you do almost all of your day-to-day transactions with their money? We live in a multipolar world today. China has a bigger economy than the United States in terms of purchasing power. Yes, we should be spending our own money, we should be making our own money, we should be self-sufficient, etc. But we should also, because no island is an island, right? No man is an island, no island is completely self-sufficient and maintaining high standards of living as we are accustomed to in this modern world. But if we were to encourage ourselves as separate nations and united peoples, as the case may be, to do trade with both China and the United States, the two superpowers, etc., use their currencies in probably more equitable or equal amounts. Equitable would probably be a better word, etc. Instead of being dependent on them to the point which part the bully could now come and hit you as a plow and they bomb the Simon Bolivar in the museum, etc., and do you all the disrespect and they take your president, etc. I'm not too pessimistic about that situation, because the vice president of Venezuela, Mr. Ambelsi, is a very competent lady, so far as I could see. I think she is going to fill that spot competently, and I don't think Venezuela is as weakened as some people may be hoping to see. I think they will continue to be strong, but it is very important that we be self-sufficient. And in the case of the Caribbean, because a lot of us who are watching the show are from the Caribbean, the only way that we could logically expect to become self-sufficient is if we were to unite as one nation. Because if you look at the population densities in the Caribbean, you would notice that it would be very difficult to create all the things that are necessary to become self-sufficient in any of the one Caribbean nation. But if we were to come together, we could put ourselves in a position where we cannot be taken advantage of, or as the guy who spoke before us, have to take a gift that is more damaging than helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to give you the opportunity also, Mr. Leroy, to respond to some of the comments. I think he was directly commenting when you were speaking. So, well, I'll start from where you said bombing can change history. So just briefly give your take on what bombing can cause, because while it cannot change history, history has been in the past, it can create a history, but not a good history.
Well, the bombing that took place this morning happened over 5 minutes. So we're looking at 5 minutes worth of bombing, right? Compare that to, say, the 12 days of almost consistent war between Iran and Israel that happened a couple months ago. You could see that there's a big difference. Venezuela is not a small nation. Caracas in particular is a very big city, a very strong city. And so they are going to recover. So yes, bombing could change history or whatever have you. But in the case of Caracas, I believe they have more than enough to basically deal with this blow that they received today and go forward in a positive way and maintain their sovereignty doing so.
Right. I think we have how to put in Joycelyn or no? Joycelyn is ready. Joycelyn, you ready?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Listen, I come from Martinique, so I am a French people. I was in Caracas with Leroy George and the other comrade. So I don't speak English very well, so I prefer to listen you. Okay, sorry for that.
Okay, no problem, no problem, no problem. All right. All right. Caro, you want to make a statement right now based on what's happening? Because after I get a statement, I can give something. Adam.
Yes, yes. Sorry about that. I was getting some calls and another topic there. I've been scrolling on Facebook and I'm seeing a lot of mixed feelings on this said topic. My question, I really don't want to be in a mix-up, but my question is, when this regime falls, when the Maduro regime falls, or if it falls, or whatever the case may be, who is the next country to fall? Who is next? The minute you don't side with certain people's narrative, you are toppled over, you are taken over, you are pushed to the side. Who is next? We have some. I was going to say, Leroy, the Venezuelan people or Venezuela as a country had a military. Which other Caribbean nation do you know has a military? Which other one? And we have to think on those things logically. Yes, Maduro might not have been the best president. Who is? But did his people vote him in there? Would you want somebody to kick in your door and say, "Oh, you're not the legitimate leader of your house"?
Yeah.
Those are the questions you have to ask yourself, you know. You get me? I mean, I'm not saying I am for Maduro, I'm against Maduro. I am saying I am for fairness. When President Trump lost the election and he said it was unfair, he waited his turn again to get back into power.
Exactly.
Why couldn't we wait our turn again for the next election for Maduro to get out? For the people to democratically vote him out? Those are the questions we have to ask. Do we want to rule our world by force, or do we want to rule the world by the people's choice? Because let's say you declared war now, and is that the choice of the people? You bomb a place to catch one man. You might have killed 100 other people for the case of one man. And this one man is now possibly in New York or wherever the case may be. Is that fair to the people? We have to think logically. Stop thinking one side and say, "Oh yeah, Maduro got to go, Maduro got to go." Fine and dandy, he got to go. But there's a process. There's an international court of law for these kind of things. I see Mr. Rizar. I see him itching to say something. Go ahead, sir.
Do you mean me?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I was thinking because when I heard your question about who is next, I started thinking about, do we really have to think in terms like who is next? I think we should more focus, as I said earlier, on education and uniting people and make sure that you're strong enough to start a fight, because that's the what I've seen so far. I mean, what I've seen so far is that if you do not prepare yourself properly, they have a saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's the problem with many people. I see many good people, they stand up, they try to fight, but I see that they haven't prepared them good enough. And then you see they fail. When you start a fight, you have to think 10 steps ahead, because once you start open up your mouth, you will be a target of the western countries, the countries in the west. So you have to be prepared and make sure you're 10 steps ahead so that you won't be surprised by anything. So the first thing is education. Unite, learn people to be self-sufficient, and then you start the fight. That was all.
Leroy, I saw you itching over there as well. Come in. Let me hear you now.
I was itching about your who is next. Once I agree with the former person, the what is next is way more important than the who is next, right? Because as they say, small mind talk about people. Medium minds or average minds, they talk about events. But the great minds think about ideas. And so the main persons involved, Donald Trump, Maduro, let's have a discussion about who good and who bad. That is a simple conversation that is for simple minds and is only really good for background, right? To give context. When we start to talk about what happened, the United States bombed Venezuela, Caracas in particular, the capital of Venezuela, for 5 minutes. And that is the what. But the philosophy, the idea that we should seek to look at is why are these things happening? How do we prepare ourselves? And I think we got a lot of positive from the individual right here. But touching the who is next is a very important piece of background information that I would like to speak a little bit on. Now, when you look at Western media, pro-Donald Trump Western media, they would give you the impression that the lady that won the Nobel Peace Prize is appropriately should be the president or vice president of Venezuela. I don't think people understand that she has never run for elections. And the reason she has never run for elections, as many of us would know, is that Venezuela has many attempted coups, especially since and even before Hugo Chavez democratically ascended to the position of president. And even Mr. Hugo Chavez was captured and imprisoned for a while, but they had to let him go when they discovered that the power of the people is greater than the people who abdicated power in that particular scenario, right? And because there has been these attempted coups, the rules in Venezuela, it appears, are very similar to the rules here in Trinidad and Tobago, where if you sabotage the democratic processes, where in the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, for example, it's called the People's Representation Act, which determines how elections happen, etc. If you sabotage that People's Representation Act, you cannot run for office. And she did participate in an attempt to overthrow the democratically elected government of the time. And so she has never run for elections. And so you're going to hear a lot of people in Western media propose her as the person to take over, or somebody of her choice to take over, like Mr. Edmundo, etc., right, who would have did contest elections but actually lost, according to the Venezuelan elections committee that governs over elections. This is where the idea kicks in and goes above the individuals and the event. Succession. Mr. Maduro, be he good, be he bad, be he whatever, I never had the honor of meeting the individual, right? And if I had the honor of meeting the individual, I still wouldn't know who the individual is. But whoever he is he did a very good job where succession is concerned, because many of us know the name Delcy. Delcy has been at the forefront of things. And so when he is no longer in the picture, temporary or permanent, as whatever the case may be, she's able to stand up and take charge. And we see the people of Venezuela standing behind her comfortably. And so what we must always seek as a people is to have, always ask our leaders, be they good or be they bad, especially here in the Caribbean, where sometimes you have like Eric Williams in Trinidad and Tobago as Prime Minister for 26 years. Yeah, Ralph Gonzalez just went on about 25 years before he was removed, and so forth and so on. What is your succession plan? Are you ensuring that this machinery that is our nation is stronger than you as an individual? Because just as Mr. Maduro would have been kidnapped this morning, he could have died of a heart attack or something. We want to know that you put your people in front of you and you put that machinery to govern over the people and make sure that the shared needs of the people are met appropriately in front of you, and you're ready to sacrifice of yourself as a leader. And I feel proud as somebody who, I will stand in the gap and defend Maduro, right? Especially when I see so many people attacking him with no evidence whatsoever. I feel very proud of Mr. Maduro for adhering to the idea of good, successful, committed succession planning.
So this comment came in. He wants Guyana, or he ain't want Guyana again. I'm thinking that they're talking about where he tried to go into Guyana to get the oil or the oil fields in that nature. Anybody in the panel has a comment on that? Go ahead, Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, greetings to everyone again. Well, there's plenty to say. I'll try and keep it as brief as possible.
Yeah, you are 2 minutes.
There's been a dispute between Guyana and Venezuela for over a century. The one or the forces that are stirring the pot for that is ExxonMobil and the United States government. So we hope that can be resolved in the interest of the peoples of
Guyana.
The one point you made, you said, who's next? We must organize ourselves to prevent any next, because what the Americans want to do is to go to Cuba next. They've been trying to overthrow Cuba for the past 65 years. They've been blockading Cuba for the last 65 years. They've been organizing terrorist attacks against Cuba for the last 65 years. Cuba is us. Cuba represents and reflects us in the Caribbean. Struggle for independence, struggle against colonialism, struggle against neocolonialism, struggle for independence and sovereignty. They're going after Cuba. I'm assured and I'm confident that Cuba knows how to defend itself. We also must know how to defend ourselves. Over the last few months, all the social and cultural and civic and civil organizations in the region, religious organizations, political organizations, cultural organizations denounced the American intervention. Actions took place. There was demonstrations in Grenada. There was Vigil for Peace in Trinidad and Tobago. We need to organize our people even more in that sense, so our voice is heard. So we need to organize ourselves even more, and then we can put a stop to this. Maduro is not really the issue. We hope he's safe. The issue is that belligerent neighbor to the north bombing our countries, militarily occupying our countries. That's the problem for us to confront. Anyway, I have to go now. I have somewhere else to be.
All right. Have a great day, my brother. Thank you for your candor. Who else we got in the comment box today? Go ahead, Leroy. I'm seeing you.
I am so glad that individual brought up that that comment that they want to take over Guyana. No matter how much we tell a lie, it doesn't become the truth. So let me bring some facts to that individual and to all individuals who believe that Venezuela is ignobly trying to overtake Guyana. There is a region between what is Venezuela and what is Guyana called Essequibo. The majority of the world considers Essequibo to be a part of Guyana, even though there is a fight, a ridiculous fight in my opinion, and an inappropriate fight in my opinion, that there's this argument, some say Essequibo, which is 2/3 of what the majority of the world considers to be Guyana, belongs naturally to Venezuela, and some say it belongs to Guyana. Here are the facts. Essequibo belongs to Essequibo. Why do I say Essequibo belongs to Essequibo? The Venezuelan argument is that they inherited Essequibo from Spain when Spain, Guyana, and Venezuela was a part of the Spanish colonies, or was a Spanish colony. Then the Guyanese claim that Essequibo belongs to them, and they inherited it from the British or the English, as the case may be, because they were once an English colony. The reality of the situation is that the 250,000 persons or so who reside in Essequibo are almost all American Indians. Do you know why they are almost all American Indians? Because Essequibo has never been effectively colonized by either Spain or England.
Okay.
And as a result of that, because of Eurocentric white supremacist ideology, they did not acknowledge the independence of Essequibo and preferred rather to have a theoretical argument as to who Essequibo belonged to. For example, many of your viewers are from Dominica, right? If you look at the history of Dominica, they would say, oh, Dominica changed hands this amount of time, that amount of time. It went from this European power to that European power since Christopher Columbus. The reality of the situation is, much of that time, just as in the rest of the Southern Caribbean, Dominica was under American Indian control, probably right up until 1763 when the Anglo-French War came to an end. And Dominica, especially because Dominica, like St. Vincent, was a particular stronghold of American Indians. But your history books will not tell you that. They will tell you Dominica was with the Spain, or Dominica was with the French, or whoever, but they were really with the Amerindians. That being said, right, the issue of Essequibo had already been settled during the time of Hugo Chavez, because, of course, Amerindians, especially those who live in the natural state for hundreds of years, or in a similar state for hundreds of years, they're not so interested in this whole, are we Guyanese or are we Venezuelan, as much as Guyana or Venezuela might be interested in that conversation. So, Hugo Chavez would have met the president of Guyana and said, listen, let's not fight over this particular piece of land. Let us do business with each other. So even though there may not be a settlement to say Essequibo is part of Guyana, go ahead, Guyana, you be the steward of Essequibo, but understand that we must continue to do business with each other, because already Venezuela was in a situation where it was under sanctions, so it benefited for Hugo Chavez to, make peace where that situation is concerned. But as Sean Bigart Hutchinson very accurately pointed out, it was ExxonMobil ExxonMobil is the name that was given to a company that originally started as Standard Oil or Standard Gas. I think it's Standard Oil, which was owned by John F. Rockefeller, who owned more than 90% of the petrochemical industry in the United States at one point. I point out that to show that we're talking about extreme capitalism where that is concerned. It was, and his company evolved until today have ExxonMobil. It was ExxonMobil who interfered with the arrangement and the agreement that existed between Venezuela and Guyana, and basically said, listen, Guyana, you're now the fastest growing economy in the world. We want to do business with you. We require of you to not do business with Venezuela. That is a betrayal of Venezuela. And even though I may be from English-speaking Caribbean and will forever love Guyana, that is a betrayal of Venezuela. And if we are to remain a zone of peace, then what we have to do, remember they say, war is politics without blood. War is politics with blood, and politics is war without blood. If we are to stay away from war, we have to practice a higher standard of politics than what we see the rest of the world doing. And that means speaking out when something is wrong. It was wrong for Guyana, it is wrong for Trinidad, it is wrong for the United States to try to starve the people of Venezuela through economic sanctions. And so that situation can be easily resolved if we simply decide to live as neighbors with ourselves. In perpetuity, Venezuela will always claim Essequibo, Guyana will always claim Essequibo, and in perpetuity, Essequibo will always be a naturally occurring nation within itself controlled by American Indians. However, if we were to just choose to live as good neighbors with ourselves, we wouldn't have this ridiculous situation in front of us where now we have to be spending time discussing Venezuela trying to take over Guyana, which is a ridiculous statement. I'm not saying the person who made that statement is ridiculous, but when you hear and understand the facts, you understand you're dealing with ridiculousness. And that is what falsehood brings. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to ask that question. Oh, I think yes, I see somebody has a hand up. You can go ahead, sir.
I agree with all Leroy says. Given I am a French people in Caribbean, in Martinique, we have a very difficulty about what you say, given we are French people under French colonialism. So for me, Leroy, all he say is okay for me. I agree with all Leroy says. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, welcome. Because I wanted to ask that question to the group of panelists that is there. Now that that has happened, now that they bombed there, now that that has happened, what is the next steps should we take to strengthen our connections? Should we take to protect our countries? Should we take to strengthen our member states of CARICOM? What should we do next? I think this thing shows to be playing. Yeah, what should we do next in terms of strengthening our bond as a Caribbean?
My only suggestion, right? Because I do not know the answer to that question. I have ideas and I have suggestions, but many minds brainstorming will always provide a better idea. My only suggestion is we would have heard a very ridiculous statement coming from the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Ms. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who I am calling on to resign from office, because she did play a role in this wrongdoing. Indignatious is probably not a word. Please eliminate it from your mind. I never said it. But in this wrong that has been done today, right? She did make a ridiculous statement that Trinidad and Tobago will speak for Trinidad and Tobago, and the rest of CARICOM could speak for themselves. The truth of the matter is, as Mr. Sean would have, Hutchinson would have rightfully asked, who voted for this? Kamla Persad-Bissessar never campaigned on any anti-Venezuelan platform to say we're going and side with the United States over Venezuela. Let us make that abundantly clear. So Trinidad and Tobago is not speaking on this because Trinidad and Tobago never voted on this, right? Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the individual that should probably be facing the International Criminal Court for the role she played in this horrible incident today and other horrible incidents previous today and probably will happen in the future, that individual is a whole separate other case. We need to command and instruct our governments that whatever decision they make, they must make it together and not as one. Because as we probably remember, a lot of people in the Eastern Caribbean are way more educated than Trinidadians and Jamaicans, etc., where this is concerned. When we were official colonies, the original intent was for us to become independent as part of a federation of the West Indies. Because it would have been a federal union, there would have been some noteworthy amount of autonomy from each state, Dominica being a state, Trinidad and Tobago being a separate state, etc., etc. And as a result, for one individual to take us down this ignoble and ridiculous road would not have been able to happen. Today we have CARICOM. Whatever comes out of the mouths of our leaders on this particular event, we need to demand of all our leaders, because Kamala is not the only one in wrongdoing where this is concerned. We see the Jamaican Prime Minister and opposition leader both being sinisterly quiet on this particular matter, right? And of course, we talk about wrongdoing where Guyana is concerned, and we even talk about wrongdoing even with Venezuela is concerned. I don't know what they're doing, spending more US dollars than their own money, etc. What the CARICOM, the English-speaking Caribbean, needs to demand as individuals, not as governments, but as individuals, Mr. and Mrs. Government, Mr. and Mrs. Prime Minister, Mr. and Mrs. President, make sure the next words come out your mouth, come out as a joint statement from CARICOM.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Anybody else want to speak on that matter? Mr. Riaz, do you have anything to speak on that matter? Anything to say? Anything to contribute? You can go ahead.
Well, I want to come back to my previous answer about who is next. And actually, if you think logically, it's not that difficult to know who's next. If you see in the history, all the countries who were victims of these kind of attacks, like America did in Venezuela, most other countries are in Latin America, South America, and Africa. So we should focus on those continents. And the second thing you should do is try to be friends with all the people who have the same the same thought, the same goal, which is fight against imperialism. Uh, you should join with all those people, and then I come again, unite knowledge, unite people, help people to be self-sufficient. That's the only way you can prepare yourself against this these attacks of these attacks from America, because it's the same and it's going to get worse, because all the countries like America, all the big countries, America, the Netherlands, Great Britain, they are in big financial problems. So the need for going back to all the countries with minerals and oil will grow only stronger, you know so we have to be prepared because things will only get worse.
Yeah.
I also foresee that the whole world economy will collapse one day. It's not far anymore. And once that will come, aggression will grow more and more, tensions will grow, and things will get totally out of control. And we should be prepared for that day.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for your contribution. To all of our viewers on the live stream, you can call, if you have anything to contribute to this discussion, you can call the number 1767-285-8487 to call live to the show, and you can give your thoughts and your comments as well. Can you have anything you want to just say or?
Yeah, I want to say this. Today is the third day of a new year, and to start off the year, we starting off the year like this. In December 25th of last year, we had a bombing in Nigeria. Not even 10 days later, we have a bombing in Venezuela. Is World War III about to happen? Is as our brother just said, is the economies of the bigger countries crashing? That's why they're looking for resources elsewhere. You get me? This conversation is not just about Venezuela. It's about all of our nation's sovereignties and being taken advantage of by the so-called superpowers. Go ahead, brother.
I do have one thing to say. You know, we should ask these questions because I do not have the answer on these questions. But my big question is, you know, Russia said they will support Venezuela. China said they will support Venezuela. How come Venezuela succeeded in this attack? Because once I see the first day I see a ship of the America in the waters close to Venezuela, you should already have the Russia and China in Venezuela.
True.
So what happened? Was it only a bluff of China and Russia that they will support Venezuela? You know?
Well, I don't think Russia and China will take the chance to step in.
You know, so this is something
somebody...
which is bothering me.
Kirby, go ahead now, Kirby.
Look at what transpired, if you remember, with Assad in Syria.
His volume is very low.
You gotta speak up a little louder, Kirby.
Sorry, you're hearing me?
We're hearing you, but you're coming in low.
I'll try to speak a little louder. I was saying that Russia may not like the likelihood of they getting involved militarily in Venezuela is low because
just a pinch louder, please. A pinch louder. We're hearing you, but just a pinch louder.
I'll put in my headphones. We have an example of the Assad regime. When Assad fled Syria, Russia didn't get involved. And right now you have a proxy government for Israel, right? Taking are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Right. I'm saying that the likelihood for Russia getting involved in Venezuela is low because you have the example of the Assad regime. When the Assad regime, when the militia took over, he just fled. And he fled to Russia.
You're gonna have to shout. I really do. I feel as though what you're saying is important. You're gonna have to shout.
I'm shouting at the loudest.
I think you have to check your microphone settings, the volume of the microphone.
Well, let somebody else contribute. Somebody else contribute in the meantime.
Maybe you can chat. All right.
Okay, so
concerning the Russia thing, and I feel as though the gentleman, whatever he was saying was so important. I wish he had just shout. I know he probably wasn't comfortable doing so, but we were hearing him almost perfectly, almost to the point of distracted him. But concerning the why is Russia and China not being more useful to Venezuela, some facts, if I may throw them out there. One Russian minister of government, he said about Venezuela, he said that they're going to learn that you can't win a war playing defensive entirely, 100% defensive. And so perhaps what he is suggesting is that they have been a little bit too soft in their approach to things. And that is why persons would have felt emboldened to attack. That being said, we have to understand also the relationship between Russia, China, and Venezuela from an economic standpoint. From an economic standpoint, Venezuela is really as much a competitor with Russia as it is an ally of Russia, because those two nations are the two nations that produce the most heavy crude. And the reason why the United States would be particularly interested in Venezuela's heavy crude is because they have one of the oldest petrochemical industries in the world. And so some of their older refineries, which are still functional, depend on heavy crude to be operational. They are not made to deal with light crude. And so understanding that Russia and Venezuela are competing in that sense, there is a limited amount of reason for Russia to involve themselves. That being said, if Venezuela was to fall under the United States, then the United States would not have to at all turn to Russia, and a lot of other countries would not have to at all turn to Russia to get heavy crude. And of course, that would make it easier for them to sanction Russia. But as we could see, Russia has shown itself to be very tough immune system when it comes to sanctions. So that's my point where that is concerned. Where China is concerned, China is one of the two largest economies in the world. They don't produce a lot of petrochemicals when compared to the needs.
Just Mr. Leroy, we have a call on the line. Let's see, he's gonna talk. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, you hear me?
Yes, we hear you clearly.
All right, yeah. So well, I just get up and I watching everything that happening, and I have to say that I told you so. Yeah, so you remember, like what, 2 weeks ago when we were talking, I told you that is something that was going to happen. I mean, if we look at our history in the Caribbean, we
yes, so just continue talking. You listen to the feedback, but just continue talking. You will hear yourself.
Yeah, I tried to slow it down. Yeah, yeah. So that happened with Grenada, and none of the Caribbean islands assisted. Then you had that where you have those takeovers going on, and nobody in the Caribbean, no government assisting any of the other islands. So everybody stand on the side and they look at what happened and they say, hey, it's not on our doorstep, so we do not need to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. The thing is that right now you have the bigger man bullying the smaller islands. Yeah. Because why? The only island in the Caribbean region, or not just island, but the government that could do something about it, that had the forces, was Venezuela. Now, Venezuela was left on its own with everything that happened. Even though a lot of people speak, even though a couple of the government leaders come out and say, oh, they're disappointed in what the U.S. was doing, none of them stood up. Russia have been playing the game with the U.S. for the longest while, so Russia not going to come out and do anything that's going to jeopardize whatever game they're playing. So they will sit back and they'll speak and they'll say, oh, we stand with you, but we stand with you from that distance. Mm-hmm. So now the actual people on the ground in Venezuela is who feeling it. Mm-hmm. That is who being affected by what's going on. I mean, you have, okay, so like this morning, with what that went on in the region, all the leaders in the Caribbean, all the leaders in the region should be standing up right now as a unified body saying, hey, we're not going to allow that to happen, because as long as we allow that to happen, it's going to move from Venezuela, it's going to go to Colombia, it's going to go to this one, and soon the entire Caribbean going to be pretty much run over. And you're looking at, it's a systematic breakdown. You start with the strongest. Once you take that strongest man out, I mean, in the days when you had a fight, as long as you knock out the bigger man,
everybody is full
to you, because they'll feel at that point that you have what it takes to take down whoever that stands in your way. And that is what's happening right now. And Venezuela is being used as an example. And because of that example, everybody's standing by, and everybody right now cowering down in a little corner like, oh, I'm trying to protect my own people. This is not about protecting your own people. Your own people is the entire Caribbean region. And until the entire Caribbean region can come together as a single body and say, hey, enough is enough, then stuff like that going to keep happening.
Yes,
Thank you for your candor, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah.
Kirby, you back on now?
Yeah, I hope you all are hearing me now.
No, man. You're gone worse.
Alright. And I don't know how to solve that. I try shouting. I don't know if I'm shouting, you all hearing me.
Put the phone close to your mouth, man, and talk, man. We go ahead.
Yeah, oh gosh, all they can hear me. Hello?
Yeah.
Right, all I wanted to say was that Russia, the likelihood of China and Russia getting involved in that Venezuelan situation is low because they have their economy to study, they have their situation. Not to mention Russia is even has its hands full in Ukraine. When you look at, if you remember Assad, when Assad was under, when he fled Syria, he went straight to Russia, but Russia didn't get involved militarily, right? And now Syria is in the hands of a proxy-controlled militia through Israel. But why do Russia get involved? They don't want to risk all-out war with Israel, all-out war with Russia, and with Washington. They don't want to risk that. They're considering their economy. So the likelihood of they getting involved is low. I heard somebody talking about succession planning, and what's going to take place there, in my opinion, is Delcy most likely will take over until they could have elections. And she already has a proven track record of fighting imperial powers, fighting neo-colonial powers, speaking out against or treacherous government here in Trinidad and Tobago. So there is no fear of what will take place there in Venezuela. But the likelihood of Russia and China getting involved is low. There's another thing I wanted to talk about was the unity. There has to be some form of unity among the proletariat across the entire Caribbean. Because you see, what we see observing taking place in history now is we elect leaders to fulfill noble reasons, to fulfill good causes, but when they get into office, they forget that. They succumb, maybe they sell out to Washington, they sell out to Europe, as the case may be. So we have to find some way to unify the proletariat, right? Get them accustomed to the hegemony of America, accustomed to and associate themselves with the history of the world, history of America, history of Europe, history of slavery and that kind of thing, and sort of sensitize the public on what to do going forward. Try to get an agreement and a consensus with the people. I don't know how to do that, but that's just my 2 cents. Hopefully you all heard me.
So I get your point in that statement where we need to start teaching people their roles and learning history, because without history we can't have a proper future. We have to know our past in order to build a future, because a foundation without a building without a solid foundation is going to fall, and our past is our foundation. I am of the belief that Caribbean unity is number one. I believe in a one CARICOM, one Caribbean voice. I believe in a strong black people voice, and we have to stand up, man, against the oppression and against the tyranny that is taking place around the world and right now in our neighborhood, in our back door. People of the Caribbean, people of whoever listens to these lives, take a hint and realize that we're not trying to discredit whatever is going on. We're trying to open your eyes so that you can finally see what is taking place in front of your face. It's atrocious, and we have to give Jack her jacket and Jacqueline, or Jack his jacket and Jacqueline her lipstick when we see it. in our faces. Go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, well, we're gonna wrap up right now. So, if I could just say that, because what we are witnessing with the reported U.S. strike on Venezuela should not be viewed as someone else's problem or a distant geopolitical issue. Because history has repeatedly shown us that once a precedent is set, it rarely remains isolated. So if such actions can be taken against Venezuela, regardless of the justification, then it's a clear reminder that the small states like ours are not immune. Sovereignty is not protected by size, silence, or assumed neutrality. It's protected by law, diplomacy, clarity of position, and regional unity. That's what I like to end with.
Go ahead, Mr. I can't pronounce your name. How do you say your name?
Rias Akhtar. Rias.
Rias.
Yes, actor. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I have all I want to stress again is unity. You know, we have to unite. There is no other way, and we have to try to identify people with knowledge on the history, on different uh, s- uh, uh, subjects, like history, ICT, unite knowledge, unite people, and and especially history, because last I like to watch all the movies on Facebook. They are very interesting, and I saw a movie about leaders in the Africa, and then you see all they have in common is that once they start to unite and once they start to be independent, they are a target for the United States. you
Mm-hmm.
know so once you know that, you have to that I always say that you have to think 10 steps ahead, so you will never be surprised again. That's the only way to prepare yourself for surprises, you know
Mm.
and we have to talk more with people. We have to be more more if people have financial problems, we have to be more social and help other people, because once, I always say, let me, because I am from Dutch. Let me translate it quick for you. Um, um, uh, okay, I also say necessity, norms, values break the law. You know, so people are unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Once they are a difficult spot, you will be surprised what they can do and how they will act. So you have to learn, as I say before, you have to educate people, help people, so they can be self-sufficient. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your candor.
Yes.
Self-sufficiency.
Yes. Once
Self-sufficiency.
again, where are you from? Because I missed the beginning of the
Well, I'm from Dominica, and my
comment.
friend across is from Dominica as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'm from the Netherlands, but originally I came from Suriname. So
Okay.
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
so because that's right, those countries, Guyana and Suriname, are now in the picture with the oil, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So those countries are also a possible target for the United States. You know,
Mm.
I mean, last year they the leader of the revolution, DC Bouterse, he died. I say he was murdered, because the previous government, uh, the president Santoki, He is the enemy of the Desi Bouterse, and he is friends with America. And I say he murdered uh, our leader in Suriname. You know,
Sorry to hear
because
that.
he has done a good job for Suriname. And you see, once you try to unite people, once you try to be self-sufficient, you're an enemy of the United States. And especially if you have oil and minerals, that's the main issue. And I think it's very important. I don't know if you guys have read the book from how you call it, the economic hitman from what's the guy name? Economic hitman from he is an ex CIA man. Economic hitman. John Perkins, from John Perkins.
No, I haven't read that book. No.
No, I have. I also haven't read it. I bought the book, but I didn't have the time yet to read it. But there, it's also mentioned. There was a video of Luis Farrakhan where he stated that countries like San Salvador, Suriname, and other countries where the United States tried to invade, and uh, seize all the minerals and oil.
Mm.
So that's all I have to say. Unite.
Good night. Thank you very much, my brother. And
Okay, thank you.
have a great day out there in the Netherlands and be safe.
Thank you. Do you also have a Facebook page? Or?
Yes. We are on Cardos Media on Facebook.
Okay. Maybe
CARDOS.
you can put the links for us in the chat somewhere.
Yeah. If you don't put it up there first. Yeah, man.
Yeah, we'll do that in a while, shortly. So
Okay, please. Okay, have a nice day. It was nice talking to you guys, and
Thank you, sir.
I really hope we can have more discussions like this, and try to let the awareness grow, and let people, so people can more brainstorm about these discussions, these topics, because it's very important.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, bye bye, have a nice day.
Same to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I Fido. What's going on, my brother?
yeah, man, I there. Well, viewers, those persons that's still on. If you guys want to call in and there's anything, you know, my right, they can call on that. We have a call-in show now, and you can communicate your point. You can say something. But yeah, I there, man, card, I there.
Well, I want to say something, yes?
Mm-hmm.
From January 1st in Dominica, we started off with violence in Dominica. January 3rd, we have more violence and violence in the Caribbean, in the region. My people, the Bible says wars and rumors of wars. Are we fighting a war or a rumor of war? I know a lot of us in the Dominica believe in the Bible. It's time for us to stand up and wake up and open our eyes and realize things are getting drasticer by the second, by the moment. And we need to have strong leadership, one voice communication, and stop this back and forth fighting. We have to protect. First, we have to start at home. Start at home in our communities. So one community, one country, one Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
That's the process of it. Build a strong community, build a strong country, build a strong Caribbean. One stick can break, 5 sticks harder to break. Think about it, man. One stick cracks, it break. But 5 stick together, it's hard to bend. We have an obligation, we have a duty to our people and to our Caribbean to have one voice. So I'm calling on our CARICOM leaders and our CARICOM member states to put out a statement in one voice and one unison. I'm not sure if Trinidad is going to join you guys in that statement, but put it out as a one body, not as separate islands, because as separate islands, you stand no chance. Create a stronger voting bloc when you come out with one voice. To the people of Dominica who think that this was, Maduro, the killer is gone. Think again. Because to get Maduro, they had to kill 100 people. To get Maduro, they had to bomb him in different places. I am not condoning Maduro's actions, but I am not condoning what is taking place to get him out either. Do we have to continue this way? Hello? Pido?
Yeah, it is.
As I heard the background just go quiet, I was wondering, do we have to continue this way? Think about it, my people, yo. Would you like somebody to kick in your door and tell you, you're not living in your house no more? That is all I know. If you wouldn't want it for yourself, why would you want to force it on somebody else? If you don't want it for yourself, why force it down the throat of someone else? Are all the people in Venezuela for this? My people, do you want that to take place in Dominica? Wake up and think. Wake up and think. That's why we have democracy. That's why we have elections. That's why we vote people in and out of power, in and out of offices. Let democracy reign. Let us let democracy be what democracy is supposed to be. You want a new change of government, you vote them in. You want them to go, you vote them out. Let us not make our place become an authoritarian state by having other people impose their will on others and on us. Fido. And let us, I was going to say, and let us stop the gun violence. Let us stop the unnecessary violence. It's getting ridiculous now. I have nothing else to say.
Well, basically, and on that note, because really and truly, the year started, the month started out a bit rough. Violent and no more violence in the region, as you say. And we can continue so, or else 2026 will be a rough year.
Yeah, definitely be a rough year.
We don't need that. We don't need that.
So, have a great and productive third day of the year, which has already started off rough. But let us continue to fight for our people, fight for our nation. Be blessed and be productive.
What is it?
Well, this is Carlos Media, and don't blame the messenger. Yeah.